I believe it was more obvious that the Raptors traded for Ingram because it was a steal of a deal. Whether they make a push for the playoffs the following year or not, you don't pass that opportunity, and you get him signed before the market shifts in the offseason in his favor. A brilliant move at the time, and will prove to be a positive more than a negative at the end of the deal. Welcome back to Amateur Hour Answers. This is a series on the channel where I read your comments and react to them in videos just like this. If you want a chance for one of your comments to feature on next week's edition of the series, and make sure you comment something down below, and while you're there, smash that like button and subscribe to the channel for more Raptors content. This one comes from Stalin BMJ9926. I don't know if I said that correctly at all, but this is under the video I did from the previous week's Amateur Hour Answers series, so a whole host of topics were covered in that, including where the Raptors are headed this season, because I have been pretty firm in my stance that, you trade for Brandon Ingram, you're trying to make the playoffs next season. But more and more, the more I think, the more I hear from Bobby Webster, Raptors general manager, the more I'm thinking, is this even a goal for the team at all? Or was it just simply that was too good of a deal for Brandon Ingram? You gave up a not so good first round pick and salary dumps, and you got Brandon Ingram, an all-star caliber player, especially in the Eastern Conference. Was it just a case that you had to make that deal because it was such a good trade to make? Or was it ambitious to try and make the playoffs? Probably a combination of both, but which side of the spectrum does it more so fall on? I'm starting to get more towards the center, where I'm drifting from thinking this is a team trying to make the playoffs, and I'm starting to think, are we getting towards a team that's actually we just had a really good trade, we just made a really good trade, and then we're going to see what happens next season. Ultimately, I think they'll start the season trying to win games, but if we get towards the trade deadline and it's still not looking fantastic for the team, and look, we have a very depleted East. I think the Raptors are more than capable and should be good enough to make the playoffs, but I could see front office pulling the plug on this team around the trade deadline if they feel we're on the outside of the playoff picture. That doesn't mean selling house, but it could mean another season of tanking. I will still lean towards them making the playoffs, but I would agree with this comment and saying don't be surprised if they look the other way. But I agree. Brilliant move to get him at the price that they got him at. I think they got him at a favorable contract towards what he maybe could have gotten. And I think that they really did not give up much in order to get him. So in agreement with the comment here. Next one comes from Mr. Canada 411. Says, if you ever had a Rogers internet or mobile, then you know a good product is certainly not a priority. Rogers now major stake in Raptors ownership, as we've talked about previously. Might be time to pick a West Coast team to add to your teams you support, so at least you have some good days ahead. I've always talked about it, whenever the Raptors are out of the playoffs or, they're eliminated from playoff contention, whatever it is, people tend to ask me, who are you cheering for now? Who do you want to win now? And my answer is pretty much always somewhere along the lines of, nobody. I don't want anybody to win. I guess, if I could, pick a team that I would be least upset about winning, I could do that, but I'm never going to change teams. I'm not the type to have multiple teams. I'm a Toronto Raptors fan. If the Raptors cease to exist, I would probably struggle to even become a fan of another team. I don't think that's going to happen, but no jumping ship for me. We are here through thick and thin, and hey, we won an NBA championship. I know it's been 6 years or whatever now, but we won an NBA championship. We got to cherish that. A lot of teams don't have one. We got to cherish that. Fox Club 2590 says Toronto has some of the best fans, but they definitely have the worst fans as well. They don't deserve nice things when we treat our stars the way we do. So I think that the Raptors fan base, the majority of it is fantastic. It's such a great community, such a great group of people. But there is a very loud minority, and it's not a very small percentage. There is a fair percentage of the fan base. It is the minority that is very loud and hateful and are just seeking something to be upset about and are always looking to be pissed off about something. And it's very upsetting when it gets really taken out on players, like the treatment Pascal Siakam got after the Tampa season, the treatment Fred VanVleet got in his final season with the Raptors, and even the treatment of Colin Murray-Boyles. Literally the first day as a Raptors player, the day he got drafted, his Instagram comments get flooded with hate from Raptors fans over an overblown, out-of-context video from his reaction to getting selected by the Raptors. It's upsetting. because I think that there was a lot of good in this fan base, but there is some bad in it, which does reflect poorly on it and does bring quite a bit of toxicity to it. Even I've experienced it myself, but yeah, it's a shame. I think you could say that for any fan base, but it feels, to be ingrained within the Raptors fan base, it feels very bad at times to be within it. But for the most part, it is great at the very least. Next one comes from Big Boy 3512, says, I honestly believe the Kawhi Gasol trades, the championship, and how everything came together changed how all other teams interact with the Raptors, and that is a small reason why some transactions didn't go well. So the claim here is essentially that after the Raptors made a bunch of really good moves to win the NBA championship, they traded DeRozan for Kawhi Leonard, DeRozan and Jakob Poeltl, and a pick for Kawhi Leonard and Danny Green. Then mid-season, they moved Jonas Valanciunas, and it was CJ Miles and DeLon Wright, I think it was. Might have been a first as well to get Marc Gasol. The championship doesn't happen without either of those trades. There's just no way the Raptors get past even Philly with JV on defense. Marc Gasol was pivotal towards that championship. So the suggestion here is that after teams saw the type of business that the Raptors and Masai Ujiri's front office were pulling off, maybe they were a little bit more concerned about dealing with him. It does say it's a small reason, so I will agree with that. It probably has had a factor in the last years. It probably has become a little bit more difficult knowing that there is this reputation in place for Masai Ujiri. But for the most part, I think we could all agree that for the most part, if a team feels like they're getting a good deal, they're not going to back out because they're scared to trade with the Raptors. But the perception definitely has changed after the championship, and the treatment has definitely would have definitely changed, even to a small degree. Agreed. Phil Gapp says, like Alijah Martin. I like Alijah Martin. Hope he asked to go to the 905 for point guard, polished threes, for point guard play, polished threes, processing, passing, and ball handling. If he can be a combo guard in case one of the point guards is out, he can stick. So that's, I think, a big thing for Alijah Martin. And since this comment was posted, Alijah Martin has signed a two-way contract with the Raptors, meaning he is going to be getting a lot of play time with the Raptors 905. And I think that's a big swing for his game. Coming into the NBA, he's more so like a strictly shooting guard. He's not a combo guard. He's a bit undersized for the position at 6'3". I'm not sure what the focus is going to be on with the 905. I think that polishing that three-point shot is obviously the main thing. But if we can work a little bit with the ball handling, can we get to a point where he can give some of those minutes as a point guard? That would be a huge difference to its abilities in the NBA because he's got the defensive capabilities to be a point of attack defender in the NBA and has the size to do it. Just a little bit undersized for that shooting guard position. So I think it's a little bit more lofty. 5 years of college, that point guard play never really came. That's a bit of a lofty ambition from Phil Gapps here. But I agree, if we can work on it, that would be big for the team. Before we go to the next batch of comments, as a reminder, if you're enjoying so far, please make sure you have hit that like button, subscribe to the channel for more Raptors content, comment something down below to maybe feature on next week's Amateur Answers. And while you're in the description, check out our Discord. Sign up to join a really great part of the Raptors community. No toxicity in there. But these next batch of comments come under the video I did about Ja'Kobe Walter, talking about my ambitions for him in year 2. So that is the focus of this one. And Andre the Gamer 905 says, with Masai gone, Ochai is expendable. This is in reaction to I was talking about the rotation for the Raptors, how there's 12 players that probably feel like they're going to be in rotation, but not all 12 can be in rotation. One of them is going to be Ja'Kobe Walter. One of them is going to be Ochai Agbaji. And the difficulty for Ochai Agbaji is the fact that he's doing extension in the season, and already the Raptors are over the tax and can get under the tax potentially by moving him. Now, they don't need to do it right away. They can play a bit of the season, then get under the tax before that actually kicks in. So I believe that Ochai is expendable because of that. However, I don't see the correlation with Masai Ujiri leaving. Ochai is expendable because the Raptors have a deeper rotation and because they need to duck the tax. He's the easiest way to do that, and they want to pay him end of the season. I don't think it has anything to do with Masai Ujiri, though. Further on the topic of Ochai Agbaji, Phil Gapps once again comes in here and says, Ja'Kobe Walter needs to play so well that we trade Ochai to get under the tax. I can see if healthy, Jonathan Mobo and Battle do not plays until we have someone out. If IQ can defend his man, then Gradey could be a good backup small forward. We have two-way offensive and defensive players in all positions except for small forward scorers. Sandro also a little bit suspect, Sandro Mamu Kelishvili. So, again, further on the conversation surrounding Ochai Agbaji and trading him, essentially saying, we don't have a lot of players like Agbaji who are very consistent from threes, especially from the corner. Was great. I mean, amazing. Like, he was like 40% shooting from the corner three last season. And he's a very good defender. We don't have a lot of really good wing defenders, big wing stoppers, and Agbaji provides that. So the comment here is saying, like, in order to be able to trade Agbaji, we need Walter to step up and do a lot of that work on the wings defensively. Now, not quite as big, Jacoby Walter compared to Ochai Agbaji, not quite as strong, and more so in particular. But if Walter can provide some of that defensive play on the wings, it would be a lot easier to trade Agbaji. That's my concern that I'm still alluding to, is that if we lose Agbaji, like, I really like Agbaji, what he brings to the team. If we lose him, we don't really have a replacement for him, even though we have a lot of players there. Agbaji just brings a different style that not a lot of other players have. So hopefully, yes, I agree, Walter can step up in those areas. Next comment from HTIY says, if Jacoby gets team to run him off the line, the finishing will improve. And I talked a lot about in the video I did about Jacoby Walter building strength and how that's going to aid his finishing on the inside, because his interior scoring and his efficiency in those areas is straight up bad. So that really needs to improve. And I think that strength will be a big part of that. But HTIY points out something that's also equally important, which is the three-point ball. He shot about 35% from three last season, decent for a rookie. Would like to see those numbers increase, though. And those numbers increasing will just give him more respect on the perimeter, which will draw out defenders more aggressively, which will give him more space to attack with those closeouts. So this is a great point brought up. This is also important. I mean, three-point shooting just makes everything about basketball easier. It gives you more space, gives your teammates more space. Everything is easier. Everything becomes better when you're shooting the three ball well. So that, I mean, in particular, that is the biggest swing for Jacoby Walter going into next season, for sure. Second last comment comes from Mr. Canada 411 once again. Says he did not even get one vote for all rookie first team, then lists through all of the rookies who did get listed on all rookie teams. Thank you for doing that. Jacoby Walter had all kinds of opportunities to do well. Why do we think he would be a steal at 19? We could have selected Yves Missi, who went 21st. Now he is a steal. So I don't really agree with this at all. I think that the rookies that were selected here were deserving of their selections, and a lot of them were in bigger roles than Jacoby Walter was, particularly Jacoby Walter coming off the bench. Like, Stephon Castle was Rookie of the Year, got a ton of game time. Zachary Riza-Shea started. Jalen Wells was a later pick, got a lot of opportunity due to Memphis injuries. Alex Sarr was a starter. Zach Edey got a big game time as the 9th overall pick. Khalil Ware got big game time with the Miami Heat. Matas Buzelis got bigger game time with the Bulls. Now we're getting into more territory where, okay, there was similar game time from these guys compared to Jacoby Walter. Yves Missi, similar selection to Walter, as mentioned here, but Yves Missi, more playtime. Donovan Clingan, more playtime. Bub Carrington, more playtime with the Wizards. It feels like almost all these players had more opportunities. Now, you could argue Jacoby Walter can carve out more opportunity by playing better for the Raptors, and I think that that's still a fair point as well. But I don't look at these all rookie selections and think like, now those were the guys that we should have taken. Of all the players here, I think there's only 2 players that were selected behind Jacoby Walter, one of which being Yves Missi. But we're not going to define a player based off of one season in the league. I think there was a lot of promise showed by Jacoby Walter, and I think that if he does improve in the things that I was suggesting, we talked about the 3-point shooting, but how about the strength building, the defensive improvements? I think that Jacoby Walter can become a really good player for the Raptors, especially for a 19th overall selection. So I don't look back on that draft and think, man, we should have drafted Yves Missi. The New Orleans Pelicans are so confident Yves Missi that they traded super aggressive to get Derek Queen in this draft. So I like Yves Missi, but I'm not looking back and thinking, man, we should have taken him over Walter. I think Yves Missi would have been fine, but I'm also fine with the selection that the Raptors made. Last comment comes from Mohammed Hassan, EU6WX. Says, trade Gradey Dick for Walker Kessler. Jacoby is the future. So I do see some similarities to the roles in terms of, backup shooting guard, and would it be a bit difficult to have Walter and Gradey Dick on the floor together? Maybe, potentially, but I'm not prepared at this moment to give up on Gradey Dick. I still think he's a good player, and he's going to be improving. I think he can become a really lethal 3-point shooter for the Raptors, and that's always important to have. So I'm not rushing to trade him. And on the Utah Jazz side of things, I'm not sure they would even trade Walker Kessler straight up for Gradey Dick. I think the Jazz will be looking for more there. The Raptors don't really need Walker Kessler at the moment, so for me, I'd be out on this trade. That was the last comment, but before we end off, remember we have merch with the channel. Check the link in the description and check out the Kijiji link to get yourself some merch. Send me a message, we'll get you out whatever you need. Shirts, hats, stickers. We can combine shipping, or if you're local, I can deliver it to you myself to save you on the shipping cost, or we can meet at Union Station or a neutral location in Toronto to make it easier for you to get yourself some amateur hour merch. Support the channel in the best way possible. We'll see you again next time for another video.